Dignitaries of today's event, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, in absentia, Chairman, Municipal Council, Dr. Mohit Nigam, Principal, SSPG College, Shahjahanpur, Dr. S.K. Singh, Head, Department of Commerce, Swami Vivekanand Postgraduate College, Dr. Anurag Agarwal, Head, Department of Commerce, SSPG College, members of the organizing committee, faculty of both the colleges, participants from various states of India, research scholars, and my dear students, a very good afternoon to all of you. At the very outset, I want to extend my sincere thanks to the organizers, especially my dear friend, Dr. Anurag Agarwal, for having me today as keynote speaker on a very important topic of the hour, impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy. It's a burning topic and also need of the hour to discuss at this platform. By seeing the seriousness of the disease, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced first 21 days lockdown on 24th March and said, "Jaan hai to jahan hai." That is, health is wealth. And second time, when the PM extended the lockdown on 14th April, he said, "Jaan bhi or jahan bhi." That is, lives as well as livelihoods. It was a clear message of the PM to start the economic activities while keeping the virus in check. We have completed almost 2.5 months in this lockdown, but the economic turbulence is still beyond our imagination. The World Bank and credit rating agencies have already downgraded India's growth for fiscal year 2021 with the lowest figures India has seen in 3 decades since the liberalization policy of 1990s. The former chief economic advisor to the government of India has said that India should prepare for negative growth rate in the financial year 2021. Within 2.5 months, unemployment rose from 6.7% to 21.5% as on 9th June. During this lockdown, an estimated 14 crore people have lost their employment. More than 45% of households across the nation have reported an income drop as compared to the previous year. So, the COVID 19 pandemic and the multi phased lockdown imposed to curb its spread have resulted in a crushing blow to the Indian economy. India is sixth worst hit nation by COVID-19 pandemic after the US, Brazil, Russia, and UK, according to John Hopkins University data. India's economic growth was declining due to low consumption and investment levels. The economic impact of coronavirus pandemic in India has been largely disruptive. According to the Ministry of Statistics, India's growth in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020 went down to 3.1%. However, the disruption in economic activity will reduce India's GDP growth rate to 2% or lower. No doubt, the no doubt, the government has announced a relief package of 20 lakh crore, which is 10% of the GDP. But still, I would say there is a long way to go. Social distancing and stay home, stay safe became the mantra when the nationwide lockdown was announced on 24th March, which was an attempt to arrest the spread of coronavirus. Lockdown 2 was announced from 14th April 2020 when the curve indicating the number of infected cases continued to rise despite the restrictions. This time, The degrees of restrictions across the regions varied depending upon the spread and intensity of the virus infection. However, by this time, the capability to stay home, stay safe of about 1/10 of the population had worn out because they neither lived in what could be called as home nor were they safe inside their dwellings given the accepted norms of social distancing and hygiene. I must tell, images of stranded migrants and their long, hard journeys back home will remain painful in our collective memories of the COVID-19 pandemic in India. These were the migrant workers who provide sport services to every sector across the classes. Their savings had dried out as they supported themselves without jobs. And though the government, by declaring it as a national disaster, had made it
इसमें बंद करके उसमें तो कुछ गिर
for
नहीं
the
गिरना कुछ
employers to pay the wages
दवाई गिर
as
गया तो
per
गिरवा
the
आराम से
National Disaster Management Act, but it is difficult to assess whether it has been implemented or not. Many questions have been raised about their welfare and the lack of legal protection for their rights. The government announced a $23 billion aid package to help the poor, including migrant workers, but relief has been patchy across the vast country, right? So during this pandemic of COVID-19, I'll throw light on some of the sectors which are adversely affected. So the first sector is aviation and tourism. It is one sector which has the highest probability of going under without direct government intervention. And in the next 12 months, it is highly unlikely people will travel for leisure apart from very essential travel. The second sector in this category is auto sector, which also includes automobiles and auto parts. It will continue to face challenges on account of lack of demand, global recession, and falling income levels. The third category is building and construction. So building and construction businesses are generally leveraged and hence will face the dual challenge of high interest payments and lack of sales. Apparel and textile will also get hit adversely due to disruption in labor supply, raw material unavailability, working capital constraints, and restricted demand due to limited movement of people and purchasing ability, no doubt. Shipping and non-food retail and global shipping businesses will also find this 12-month period very challenging. So there are certain actions which have been taken by the government to save the economy or to boost Indian economy. So these actions of the government are in the fourth phase of lockdown. The government of India had decided to open liquor shops to cover their losses. In the 135 crore population of India, half of the population has drinking habits. So government firstly take advantage of this opened liquor shops. Excise duty on liquor is the third largest source of income for a number of states, nearly 10 to 15% of total tax collection for some states also. The ban during the lockdown affected alcohol sales, we all know very well, in turn having a major effect on the state revenue. From June 8th, the government has announced a calibrated exit strategy under which more economic activities are allowed across the country. It is the first of the three-phase plan for reopening of prohibited activities in non-containment zones with a stringent set of standard operating procedures that will be in place till June 30th. Bearing huge loss due to lockdown, the government of India is now aiming to offer reputed companies to start their businesses in India. India is also balancing the economic situation in light of China-US trade war. Taking advantage of this situation, the government of India is attracting those companies that wish to move out of China for an alternative to China. The PM's office is conveying to the government center and state machinery to be ready with the pro-investment strategies. Uh, in mid of May, the German footwear brand Wohnwax decided to shift its entire operations from India to China, and this is a great move for the Indian economy. Proving PPE kits from 0 to 4 lakh per day. It was just an imaginative figure. India started manufacturing of PPE kits within 2 months of the coronavirus outbreak. Earlier, these were being imported, and you can imagine over 600 companies in the country are now certified to manufacture PPE kits, and India is now producing over 4.5 lakh PPE kits per day now. RBI also taken very crucial steps to maintain the liquidity or to adequate the liquidity in the market. To mitigate the economic difficulties arising out of the virus outbreak, the Reserve Bank of India has also stepped in to provide adequate liquidity to counter a sudden stop in economic activities, which would negatively affect firms' revenues and cash flows. It reduced the repo rate from 4.4% to 4% in order to enhance liquidity in the market, gave the moratorium facility to customers of commercial banks, non-banking financial corporations, and housing finance companies in repayment of loan, and also did efforts in expansion of the PM Kisan scheme, which directly transfers money to farmers in a targeted way. So let us talk about the economic package, which is one of the biggest package announced in Indian history. India's overall economic package was announced as rupees 20 lakh crore, which is 10% of India's GDP. The package, though announced on 12th May by the Prime Minister, included previous government actions also, including the RBI announcements. The previous RBI announcements included around 8 lakh crore liquidity. The economic package also included the finance minister announcement of package totaling rupees 1 lakh 70,000 crore on 26th March. The strategy of combining fiscal and monetary liquidity measures was defended by the government. Sitharaman explained, Honorable Finance Minister Sitharaman explained that other countries had also done the same. Estimates of the size of India's fiscal stimulus as a percentage of GDP varied between 0.75% to 1.3%. The economic package consisted of a mix of reforms, infrastructure building, support to stressed businesses, and certain amount of direct cash support to the needy community of the country. The collateral free loans that the package provided aim to resume business activity and safeguard jobs. Land reforms at the state level, which were not mentioned in the economic package, are also part of the overall changes. Although India is facing serious challenges on the economic front, the economy may do the better than some other developing economies, which are heavily dependent on the world trade. So now I just want to discuss how will India bounce back, right? The Prime Minister in his address on 12th May gave a call for self-reliance India, which is also popularly known as Atmanirbhar Bharat. The definition of self-reliance, Atmanirbhar, has undergone a change in the globalized world. And he clarified that when the country talks about self-reliance, it is different from being self-centered. He said that India's culture considers the world as one family, and Progress India is part of and also contributes to progress in the whole world, right? He noted that the world trusts that India has a lot of potential and lot to contribute towards the development of the entire humanity. So let us discuss now the five pillars of self-reliant India. Self-reliance India will stand on five pillars, that is economy, which brings in quantum jump and and incremental change, right? Infrastructure, which should become the identity of India system, which would become the identity of India, right? System based on 21st century technology driven arrangements. Next one is vibrant demography, which is our source of energy for self-reliant India. And last but not the least, demand, whereby the strength of our demand and supply chain should be utilized to full capacity, right? He underlined the importance of strengthening all stakeholders in the supply chain to increase as well as fulfill the demand. The government of India has unique opportunity to revitalize and boost up the economic growth through the 3R chain. All these promises will be fruitful only if they are met, right? The 3R strategy is, the first R stand for recycle. So recycle here means funding government spending needs through the privatization of state-owned enterprise assets. The second R is rebuild. Rebuild means aggregating saving by providing tax cuts to the private sector and households. And the last R is reinvest, providing incentives for manufacturing firms to reinvest such savings to substitute imports and increase the country's global market share of exports. And we believe that 3Rs should help address India's cyclical growth challenges through higher government spending, increase savings for the private sector, households, and create major job opportunities by encouraging new investments. India's growth is seen recovering sharply to 7.4% in the next fiscal year. The IMF sees India's financial year 20 growth at 4.2%, down from 4.8% estimated in January. However, the Indian economy is expected to bounce back in 2021, the World Bank said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.